Welcome everyone on today's webinar, Newired Customer Roundtable. Today, this format is kind of different for the previous webinars we have been running in the last weeks or months. On this webinar, we have invited mostly existing clients or let's say clients that are in the last phase of evaluation. So you should already know quite a bit about Newired. And what we want to speak about today is really what we have recently launched in the two previous releases, 21.1, 21.2. I want to also, let's say, expose what is planned and partially already almost delivered for 21.3. And quickly, let's say, speak about some, just few let's say, main features for 22.0 release. This is a roundtable webinar, so the Q&A will actually be processed for actually almost each slide that I will be speaking, or anytime I will present something, I will let you ask questions and I will try to answer them. So as it is a roundtable, don't hesitate to ask questions. Really, I hope we will make it interactive, and it can be actually even a bi-directional collaboration, that we will also learn something from your questions, from your comments, and we will, let's say, see that it makes sense to repeat such a format in the future. So this time it will be very much focused on the product, what is being done, what is in the development, and what's planned for 22.0, with some slides and with a live demo. So let's just dive into the first set of features that we have been implementing in 21.1 release, which was, let's say, a while ago, end of June, beginning of July, which is related to the so-called journey step visibility and form by form values. You know that one big, let's say, benefit of the step-by-step instructions is that they really follow the user in the application. So whatever I'm doing in the application, I'm followed by the guide, and I am suggested what should be my next step. But very often the procedures are not 100% linear, so the actual flow depends on what the user is doing in the application. So if I select a specific value, if I am buying on Amazon as a registered user, my steps might be different to what if I'm buying as a non-registered user. And for that, we have extended the list of so-called visibility rules by the so-called content visibility rules that I would like to show you in a minute. And before I will actually dive deep into the actual presentation, let me also mention that this type of the feature can be also heavily used for so-called input validation. So visibility rules are being used in Newired on a couple of different places. I can use visibility rules to say, hey, some steps in the journey are visible based on some conditions, or I can use the visibility rules also for tips. Let me now go to the editor, and let's actually play with some of these examples so you can really understand better the concept of the content-based visibility rules. So I'll switch from my PowerPoint to the Newired editor, and let's build a quick journey. Okay, so I will say webinar test, and what I want a user to do, I want them to first click here on create, second create account. Actually, no, I want them to create an opportunity. So let me delete this step and add a step to create an opportunity. So click here, let's put this on the right side. And here we want the user to actually set a name, so type name. And the next step here is, actually let me go back because I I just want to have one nice examples that I've been preparing before this webinar. So I really want to create an account from changes. And here we ask a user to fill in the name. So enter name, and we want to enter him a phone number. So enter phone, and we want a user to enter phone in a global syntax. So we don't want that the more number starts without the country code. So we want them that the number always start with a plus, otherwise it's not a global number. So we say we want to add a step that says, okay, not a global number, and we want this step to be visible only if this phone number doesn't start with plus. So this is exactly the type of the condition that we can now implement with the new rule type called content rule. So I will use the content rule, I'll select the element, and I say, hey, this text doesn't start with plus. So anytime it doesn't start with plus, it should show a tip, not a global number. And actually, you know what, in a couple of seconds, let's say we want this message to be visible only for, let's say, 4 seconds. And then we want a user to go to the step enter phone. And then we want the user to click on save button. So let me first play what we have just implemented, and then we will really explain the concept once again. So if I go to the home and I play this little journey, we see that why is it wrong? Actually, so let me just delete this step. And let's start with the, oops. The first step should be click here, click on create, confirm changes, and this should be the first step actually. Good. So click here, click on create account, enter name. Now enter phone. You'll type a phone in the short syntax. It tells me not a global number, and after 4 seconds, it actually goes back to enter phone. You can start typing plus, and now it goes to the save button. So you see, this is what means that some steps are actually conditionally based on a value, where the value can be whatever people type in a text field. The value can be, let's say, is this checkbox checked? Yes, no. The value can be something based on the radio buttons. Actually, I can check any content that is on the screen. And I can use it as part of my journeys to build such conditional flows that includes validation. But actually, most of the time, what we see is that this validation makes sense to be deployed, no matter if you are in a journey or outside of the journey. What I mean, it's already visible here on this form, on opportunity form, where I should fill in the name of opportunity. Actually, it's on a different view. It's on here on account. Yep. So anytime I type a country USA, actually we want a user to say, hey, you need to have the state field entered. So more or less, this is a validation that anytime I type here USA, the user needs to be told, please select a state. So if this is empty, I see this kind of the validation. So this means that for these validation, let's say, rules, it's most of the time better to use tips than journeys. But the journeys also are sometimes conditional. So how do we implement a tip like this? So we open it, what we see? First, we see that it has some visibility rules. So we say, this tip for US country, please specify the state, will be visible only if the country field actually contains USA and it is not empty. But this will, if we just do this, it will not pop up automatically, because you know that most of the time the tips appears only when you hover on the element. So we also added another section called auto show, and in the auto show you can actually specify for the tips if they should pop up automatically. So in this case, what we are saying, hey, this tip that says for US country please specify a step should be visible only if I have some conditions, like the country field contains USA, and we also want this to be visible automatically every time these conditions are fulfilled. So these, let's see, two features, the auto show and visibility rules, help you to implement such a content validation guidance on your applications. So we have seen two different examples how to use the let's see the content rules to implement the validation tips, or you can also use the journey step rules to implement a conditional validation during the execution of the journey, which actually really helps you to check whether the people follow your guidance or not. Let me go back into my PowerPoint. Or better, let me ask now any questions, whether there are any questions to this feature, because as I said, this time we want the webinar to be more interactive. It's a roundtable, so I'll be checking the questions continuously. There is actually one question. Can we use content rules for journey visibility? Yes. So I've been speaking about two examples using the actual content rules as part of the visibility rules on a step or a tip. But of course, the same type of a rule can be used on a journey visibility tab. So we have extended the list of the rules everywhere in the application. So you can use the content rule also in the visibility for the journey, or even auto start of the journey. So you can say, if let's say you are buying for more than 5,000 euros, you can start a journey that says there is a promotion, and you guide the user through the through application of some promotional code. This is a good question. Is the content sent to the server for evaluation? Okay, I've been presenting this feature in the editor. So in this case, Mark is asking whether we send this data to the server. Probably if I'm the end user, whether we send whatever the user is typing to our Newired server. No, all these evaluations are executed on the client side only. So what it means is that if I define some of these rules, like something equals USA, all these rules are strictly executed or evaluated on the client side, and we don't send any data to the server. Let me see if there is something more. Do you support custom non-HTML forms? This is the so okay, what is content? So what can I access in my content rule? In this case, you can actually select any of these elements. So if I add a new content rule, and I, for example, let's say click here on the save button, I can see that I can even check that the text equals to, for example, save, then it's evaluated actually sensitive. So you see that we can actually check the content of form elements, of so-called div elements. So actually anything what you see on the screen can be also checked. So you can check not just the value of an input, but you can check also the value of any div element. And if you were asking for if we support custom forms, the answer is yes, because the custom forms are usually implemented through some custom diffs, and we can check the value of any element on the screen. So the simple answer is yes. Are there any more questions for this? Not yet. So let me go back to the slides, and I'll speak about 21.2 main features. So I'm not mentioning each and every small enhancements we have added into our solution. There are small, let's say, customer-driven enhancements or bug fixes. I really concentrate on the key capabilities that we added in the last months and what we'll be adding in the next month or two. So now we speak in 21.2. This was the release that was released end of September, beginning of October. And we have improved our capabilities to provide our own media storage with ability to control the placement of the images easily. In addition to that, we also include a curated image library with our product. And let me again go to the editor and show what are these two features about and how easy you can use them on your system. So I will go back into my Newired editor, and we have here our webinar test journey that we have created a couple of minutes ago, which starts with this first step to click here on create. So what do we want? We want to start with a, let's say, a dialogue, which will be a welcome dialogue, and we want to put here a picture. You remember that in the previous versions you were able to include pictures, but the pictures have to be previously uploaded somewhere else. So what we have implemented as part of our solution, that we provide our own let's say, storage for the images. I can actually easily drag and drop picture here, but I have actually prepared one picture here, so I will upload it. I can select it, I can insert it into my screen. I'll actually make this a bit smaller, and let me just start typing some text. If we move this a little bit aside, we see that by default we have this Visivik editor. What I see here is what I see on the left. It was easy for me to upload an image. I can definitely upload more of them, so I can take another image that I have uploaded before and just insert it here, or easily, let's say, remove it because I don't want this to be here. And what I think it's extremely useful is that for now we can also control how the text aligns to the image. So here we were in this so-called break text mode, but I have here also the wrap text and inline text option. With the wrap text option, you can see that I can have an image on the left and text on the right, or I can do it actually the other way around, that I have text on the left, an image on the right. So I can actually now have the image, just resize it and write something more. So this gives me a pretty nice, easy to use interface to upload any number of images I like, and also control how the text relates or aligns to the visual content. We know that actually to select the right pictures, it's quite important, let's say, not to keep some visual consistency. And honestly, I'm doing a lot of PowerPoint presentations, and I know that to use some predefined library of images with the same tone, with the same look and feel, this makes my PowerPoint presentations much better and attractive. And we actually believe this is the same with the images you may wish to use in your journeys. And because of that, we have not just allowed you to upload your own image, but we actually have some libraries that are curated with some images that we believe you may wish to use out of the box. So you don't need to actually upload any of your images. You can just pick and choose the images that we have applied to our system. We have a couple of different libraries, the colorful library, the black and white library. We have also the special inky style that, makes it it's a digital onboarding for a complex application. Sometimes we think that we need to give it a bit of the human touch, or sometimes just make the picture less visible, so you can just select something without any colors. And actually, the system was designed that those curated libraries work with any type of the theme. So we have selected the images in a way that when I switch from the light theme to the dark theme, we will still be actually able to see that this looks fine no matter if it was dark or light. So that's really why we say it's a curated content. We pick and choose the colors and theme, so it really all fits together. You don't need to search. You don't need to ask your designers to provide more pictures. It's just available out of the box, and it makes it super simple to put some of the graphical assets directly into your journeys, steps, tips. Let me now again check the chat. I see that there are some questions related to the features that I'm not presenting now. I'll answer those at the end of the presentation, whether there is a workaround or whether this is on the roadmap. So if I skip some of the questions that you ask now, I'll answer all of them at the end. Okay, so no worry. I'll just check here if there are any questions to this media library. Some of them are really simple, like what picture types are supported. We support any type of the picture that is supported by HTML, so JPEG, PNG, GIF, animated GIF. You can actually really drag and drop any type of picture into our media library. Oh, this is a good one. Are the pictures versioned, or what if we need to modify the picture? This is a great thing. This is a great question. The pictures are actually not modifiable. So what we mean is that anytime you upload a picture, it creates, let's say, a read-only copy of this picture. If you want to replace it with another picture, you need to upload, let's see, the new one, and this actually uploads a new ID of the picture. So what it means is that we don't need to version the picture, because each picture is actually unique and uniquely identified. So if you would need to change it, you would actually upload a new one. So this means that if I have this journey already published and I would replace this picture with a different picture, I would still need to go through the publishing process. And in the publishing process, this would actually replace the picture references. So no worry, also the pictures, let's say, go through the publishing process, but technically speaking, we don't need to version them because they're really different. Can we upload our own library? This probably speaks about this feature that we have the libraries and we see these three. Yes, we allow customers to actually upload their own libraries. Of course, you can just upload many pictures to the upload section, but if you want to define really another library here, let us know and we show you how to define your own library. And there is one question, how does the search works? Yes, so there is a search here, and actually you see that I can search and find something. I believe this is based on the name of the file. We don't store any more information, but you can just start typing like balloons or success. Yeah, so anytime I search for cloud, you see that it's pretty. Machine was not computer. This is a the current. Yeah, so it searches by the name of the file. Let me see whether there are any more questions in the Q&A panel. Is it possible to copy the content of my library to my editor? This content is actually not stored in the editor. This content is being managed actually on the server. So if there is 5 of you who are working on the content, all of you will access the same images. If you upload the picture will be accessible to your colleagues. And if you speak really about the libraries, we can actually you can define your own library. We can help you with how to upload it on the server. So it appears here under the system libraries. Of course, you can just drag and drop the images from your file system here. Okay, there's a question because some existing clients have been offered with our, an option to, or we hosted a third-party media library for them. Definitely, we support the process of migrating the old media library into this new media library. What it will happen is that you'll still continue to have the old library because all the previous versions or the existing steps and tips point to the let's say proprietary library that we have been deploying in the past. So we keep it running in the read-only way, so the current assets, the current journeys can still point on them, and we can take the library and upload it here, so your pictures will appear either here in uploads or as a library here on the server. If the journey is already published, do I have an option to change the picture and edit the content? This is the point, is that of course you have an option to change the picture, but technically speaking, you will never change the existing picture. You will upload a new version of the picture. So in our storage, we will still, let's say, have 2 different versions. You will have the old version and the previous version. So the old journeys will point to the old version, the new, until you publish, the existing content will still point to the previous version of the picture. So what I mean is that if I would need to upload if I want to change this picture to be different, what I will do, I'll just click edit here. I will drag and drop the new version of this picture. I will select it, and I will just replace the version to be a different. And then I go to the publishing process. I publish it, and from now on, the people will see the new version. Good. Let's go back. I like that you are asking questions. This makes the webinars always more fun. So now we speak about the version 21.3, the so-called journey playbooks. Now we speak about a version that is in a final phase of development. I will not be showing it live because it's really under development now. This is a feature that is planned for early December. So in a couple of weeks, we launch it. And what are the playbooks? The playbooks are something like a playlists versus albums in Spotify. More or less, you can think about it that we have customers really with hundreds of journeys. So people are creating the guides and tutorials for every single operating procedure, but there is a difference between an ad hoc guide, ad hoc journey that you want to run when you feel lost, and there is a difference with something which is usually called an onboarding. But there is not just one onboarding. There can be a different onboarding for administrator, a different onboarding for the let's say salespeople. So what we now allow you to manage with the version 21.3 is that you will be able to define another type of the content, which we call a playbook. The playbook is a container. sorry, the playbook is a container of journeys. So you can have as many playbooks as you like. Each playbook actually contains the journeys. One journey can be part of multiple playbooks. For each playbook, I see whether I passed that. So did I went through my, let's say, basic onboarding or leads management playbook? Here you see that I'm in the 33% of the execution. I can dive deep into my playbook and I can see what journeys I have already executed. This number is probably wrong because I should be in the 25%, clearly. It's not 33, this is just a mock-up. And how do I do that? I do it with a special playbook editor that is available in our Newired editor. So in the Newired editor, I can open the screen, which is called playbooks. I can create any number of them, and it probably doesn't look so nice on your screen through the screen sharing, but I can just drag and drop existing journeys into my playbook. So playbooks are containers of journeys. You can run the journey independently on playbook, or you can just open a playbook and go through the list. This can take a couple of days, this can take a week. You always know where you are. You can share with your manager, with the HR, whether you pass it or not. It's still strictly personal. We don't, let's say, track the personal information now on the server. It's just on the client. But it's a nice way how you can structure your content in a way that you say, hey, these are the couple of the journeys you should run first, and these are the journeys that you want to, let's say, run possibly later when you need assistance. Good. This is unfortunately, let's say, a little bit tough to present, as I said, because it's a work in progress. But still, I wanted to present it, and let's check whether you get it. If there are any questions, so I will go here in the Q&A panel, and I see some playbooks. How many playbooks do you support? In general, we don't put any restriction on number of playbooks in the system. In general, we believe that for me as a user, I don't want to be exposed in too many playbooks. I think that usually in the best scenario, there is just one playbook which is really optimized for me, and I should not need to go through 5 or 10 of them. But if your system is so complex, you can of course have 5 or 10 playbooks. It's really up to you. Are the onboardings personalized? Yes. How we do it? So today we do it in a way that, I don't know what is wrong with my PowerPoint today. So today, so each playbook holds the journeys. So I can have journeys being part of my playbooks. And you know that I can assign the visibility rules to the playbooks. So I can say administrator, I mean, these journeys are only for administrators. And in this case, if none of the journeys are visible for a given user, then the playbook will be completely hidden. So imagine that I am the administrator, and no, I'm not an administrator, but there is a special onboarding for administrators. Because all the journeys are invisible to me as a non-administrator, then I will not see the playbook at all, which actually means that yes, the visibility rules are applied to the journeys. Can we have only journeys in the playbooks? What about other contents, tips, etc.? Honestly, from our point of view, we don't see a reason why you would like to have a tip in a playbook. What we are thinking for the future, though, is, and maybe that's why you are asking this question, is that we don't want to have only journeys here, but some customers in the past were, let's say, saying, you know what, I mean, as part of the onboarding, the first thing what the people should do, they should watch a specific video, or one, we have a survey, we have a quiz that we want to include in the onboarding. How do we do it? So yes, in the future, we actually plan to have also the third-party content as part of the playbook, a quiz, a video. Today, there is a little workaround that you can create a journey with one step. So I can have a journey which will have only a dialogue that will have, let's say, a nice video included in the list, and this will be all. So yes, you can actually expose more content via the journeys with single steps, or let's see, with one step only. But in the future, we may add it as a native option that you will have more content than just journeys. But honestly, we don't see a reason for a tip. If you have a use case for a tip, let us know. We can definitely consider it. Go back if there are any questions. Have you any program to add the possibility to insert video in the tips and steps of the journey? So it's already passed. So this is a good question. This is a question still to the media library. You remember that we have here the insert image. There is still the insert video button, but the videos are externally hosted. This is something that we do have on the roadmap to also allow people to upload the images. We are not, let's say, worried about that. So technically speaking, for us, there is not a big difference between a picture and a video. The system technically would support both. It just needs to be, let's say, we still believe that there are popular systems and reasons why you may wish to publish your video somewhere else, but let us know if your reasons are, for example, the IP protection reason. So you don't want, you use Newired on premises and you don't want to upload the videos into some public servers. I can imagine that you would wish to deploy it in our media library server. Let us know, please, via email your motivation. This is technically really possible, and very likely we see that there is a demand for it. We will also enable people not to upload just the pictures, but also the video files. Is it possible to create visibility rules in the playbooks? Again, good question. Yes and no. So the visibility rules are applied to the journeys. So if I have the visibility rule for each journey and all of the journeys will become, let's say, invisible for a given context or for a given user, the playbook will not be visible at all. But we also see an option that this is not enough. That, for example, if I have two onboardings, one is onboarding for normal users and onboarding for administrator. And some of the journeys will be part of both onboardings. This will mean that the administrator onboarding will be visible for the normal users because it's not just an extension. It contains the same journeys that are, let's say, necessary for both roles. In this case, it really makes sense what you are saying to really implement the visibility rules on the playbook level. This is not planned for early December, but if you really share with us some nice use cases for it, we may, let's see, include it in the next version 22.0 in February, March next year. So not immediately. There is a workaround through the visibility rules on the journey level, but let's see, I see your point that it makes sense to do it also on the playbook level. Thanks for this tip. So this was the playbook editor. Now 22.0, the release in early March 2022. There is something which, I mean, there are more smaller enhancements and features, but there is just one thing that I want to mention today, is that, as you know, many of you are coming from the, let's see, from the enterprise organizations. and many of your IT colleagues have been asking for the so-called single sign-on and enterprise user management. What does it really mean? The number one priority is the so-called global user management, which includes, for example, the password rules. So every, let's say, enterprise organizations have the strict security rules, and usually what you want to achieve is that the user doesn't have a different passwords for different services. If you change the, if there is a policy that you should change your passport every 90 days, this rule is applied globally. Whenever there is a new hire and someone new is hired, I mean, you can create the user automatically in the target system, or when someone leaves the company, I mean, the account should be automatically deleted in all the, let's see, services that were exposed to given individual. Currently, with Newired, actually provide our own user management component, which would mean that if you, for example, host the system on our server and someone leaves the company, you would need to make sure that this account is disabled in our system because it's not, let's see, connected to your corporate IT user, let's see, account management. There is also one benefit for every end user, which is called a single sign-on. A single sign-on means that if I'm logged in into the Windows computer or Google account, if you are using the Google as a user provider, you don't need to log in for the editor again because there is a shared identity between the, let's say, the browser or the standard user. So finally, let's say we see that during the year, we should not concentrate only on the visual features, pictures, as we saw the playbooks or visibility rules. We also need to make sure that our platform is friendly for your IT organization requirements. And we plan that for 22.0, so you can tell your IT that we are heading towards this direction, and they can get ready because usually to deploy another app in the enterprise user management, it means that you would need to be, let's say, aligned with some of the requirements. Let me see if you have any questions regarding to SSO. Not many. I wasn't expecting a difference. So, what standards will you support? The system should be based on the so-called OAuth 2 protocol. This is, I think, the standard for the modern authorization. It should be compatible with Microsoft Active Directory, with Azure, with Google, and with other providers. Basically, there is just one other alternative, which is called SAML. We want to start with OAuth, and the SAML will be added later if it will be requested by anyone, because the OAuth is actually the more modern standard. So OAuth will be provided in the next release. The SAML probably a bit later. Do I need to log in to access the guides? This is probably a question related to this SSO implementation. So no, this more or less really speaks into the user management of the authors. So you know that we distinguish between the author and the end user who is actually consuming the guides and tutorials. So the end user doesn't need to log in into our system, but the author or the manager who is publishing the journeys in the portal, these type of users needs to be authenticated, and only some of them should be allowed to, let's see, to publish the content or edit the journeys. And that's where we will integrate your enterprise user management with our system. So no more different passwords, different accounts. This will be all centralized if your company is already using some corporate user management, which 90% of the companies are actually doing. Let's see. Still some questions about the playbooks. How do I make a separation between the different playbooks? For example, I would like to expose one playbook for admin only. So this is already asked with by some other customer. So how you do it? Let me just go back into the system. So basically, each playbook contains journeys. Each journey may have a visibility rule. If these journeys have the visibility rules that this is visible only for the administrator, then if all these 5 journeys are visible for the administrator only, then this playbook will not be visible for non-administrators. So how you do it? You do it through the visibility rules. Unfortunately, I don't have time today to dive deeper into the to the general capabilities of the visibility rules, but specifically for the playbooks, the visibility of the playbook is controlled by the visibility of the journeys. That's what we plan. In the future, we may add the visibility of playbooks directly, but now it's derived from the journeys. If you're really unsure how to apply visibility rules on the journey level, please contact our support and we'll help you with that. Yeah, there is some question about the videos. We will remember it and we will come back to you. It looks like more and more of you are actually thinking to also upload not just the pictures but the videos, so we should consider it in one of the future releases. Could you please share a user guide for this? Maybe looks for these visibility rules. I will ask my colleagues on support to share a user guide as well. Another question, have you in program to add the possibility to insert a video and tips and steps of the journey? We discussed it, yes. Based on number of questions, this makes sense. Can we create a playbook ourselves without Newired assistance? Definitely yes. The playbooks will be created with the editor, the standard feature in next version, which is planned for early December. So the playbooks will have a dedicated editor. The SSO will be available to deploy in March 2022 release. Yes, the SSO will be available to deploy in March 2022 release. It would be great if you plan to use it, that you would actually share with us your IT, let's say, profile. What user management system do you use today? So we can make sure that your profile will be actually, let's say, covered as well. So actually, I planned this webinar to be 45 minutes long, so we are 5 minutes over, which is actually great. Thank you a lot for all the questions you had. There were really maybe 20 of them. This is perfect. I hope that you liked the content. You would like to repeat such a concept in the future. If you have some ideas how we should structure these roundtables, maybe not with the feature presentations, but maybe with the how-to presentations, how do you do this or that, let us know. We would love to have such a roundtable webinar once per month or once per quarter at least. Just share your ideas, and once again, thank you for your time, and so let's stay in touch. Bye everyone.